Let's talk about how to actually boost your testosterone. In the video today, I'm going to teach you not only how to boost your total testosterone, how to increase your free testosterone, but the actual daily habits that you can put in place that'll make your testosterone optimize permanently. So let's start with what actually matters, because so many people are thinking about drinking raw eggs, they're thinking about cold showers, but really the things that are going to impact your testosterone the absolute most are going to start with some really basic stuff. First and foremost, starting with sleep. Sleep is where we produce about 70 to 75% of our testosterone. So it's very easy to understand that if you're cutting down your sleep hours, you're just going to be cutting down the amount of hours you have to produce that large sum of testosterone. We see people's testosterone scores increase significantly when we get them up to that 7 to 9 hours of sleep range. The second thing that we really want to focus on is body fat. High body fat means that your body is going to have a lot more aromatase enzyme going through it, which is just going to make more of your testosterone convert to estrogen, which we don't want, instead of converting into free testosterone or staying total testosterone. So every bit of body fat we can get off our body will increase the amount of that testosterone that we can utilize. Muscle mass is another one of the obvious things, but it really is a little bit deeper than just increasing total testosterone. The big thing with muscle mass is that muscle mass is where we hold a lot of our androgen receptor density. So the more muscle mass you have, the more androgen receptors you have for you to actually store and utilize that testosterone. So building muscle will just make it so you can enjoy that testosterone even more. One of the biggest things that we see people mess up all the time is on their fats and cholesterol. So cholesterol is what we make testosterone out of. So if you're not eating enough cholesterol, if you're on a low-fat diet, if your calories are way too low, if any number of things are going on that lower the amount of healthy fats in your diet and the cholesterol in your diet, just expect you don't have the building blocks to even make testosterone. So don't expect to have a lot of it. Stress and cortisol are another one of the big hits when it comes to reducing your total testosterone. The big thing is that cortisol acts directly on the testes. So LH and FSH, which are two of the hormones in our body that make us produce testosterone, they're like the thermometer for how much testosterone we need, are produced in our testes. And when your cortisol is really high, it directly downregulates how much testosterone your testes are going to tell your body to produce. So lowering cortisol and stress will significantly impact your total testosterone. And then one of the easiest things to do is make sure you're not micronutrient deficient in some of the things that our body needs to create testosterone. For example, vitamin D, which is actually a hormone, not directly a vitamin, is actually one of the most important things to put in your body to increase testosterone function. Vitamin D acts directly on the testes and actually lets them know that they need to be producing more and more testosterone. People who are deficient in vitamin D, one of the things you always see is they're also super low in total testosterone. Other good supplements to throw in would be like zinc and magnesium, and that's because zinc actually lowers SHBG, which we'll talk about in the next thing. Magnesium lowers SHBG, which we'll talk about in a second, but also both of these are part of the mechanistic process of creating testosterone inside the body. So when you put these three supplements in your system, you're basically giving yourself the other building blocks you need with cholesterol to create testosterone. If you throw these 6 things in, you will immediately see a massive jump in total testosterone. But it gets a little bit more complicated than that. One of the biggest things we see people do all the time is paying all of their attention to total testosterone. And this is where the free testosterone versus total testosterone conversation really becomes so important. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that total testosterone is just the total amount of testosterone that is in your body. But free testosterone is actually the amount of active testosterone that you can actually utilize. Free testosterone is the testosterone that's going to affect your mood, your libido, your effectiveness in the gym, your energy, all sorts of stuff like that. And really only about 1 to 3% of the testosterone in our body is free testosterone. But the way to think about these in the easiest way is that total testosterone is like having a bank account full of money that you don't have access to, while free testosterone is the cash in your pocket. You can spend it as you please, and it's basically the only money you really have. So if we can increase free testosterone, you'll actually notice the most significant increase in the way you feel and the effectiveness of your testosterone regimen. So how are we actually going to get free testosterone really, really high? So the number one thing for us to attack is SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin. So really, the name itself kind of spells out what it does. What it is it's a sticky substance that binds up our sex hormone, in this case testosterone, and doesn't let it convert into free testosterone. It's a real nuisance in the body. It is necessary for other processes, but lowering it is a really good idea if you want to feel amazing and want really good free testosterone. So some of the reasons that SHBG gets messed up in the first place and causes low free testosterone is because people are undereating. This has a little bit to do with the cholesterol and fat level, but also when you're undereating, your body will overproduce SHBG as a stress response. Secondarily, one of the ways to get it to come down is through lifting weights. Lifting weights has been tested to lower SHBG better than almost anything you could do physically in your day-to-day life. Other things that are going to increase or negatively affect SHBG are inflammation in the body. And most inflammation is going to come from a high glycemic diet, putting too much sugar in, and can be easily avoided. Alcohol and smoking are another one of these inflammation-based problems that are going to increase SHBG in your body. And lastly to pay attention to is your thyroid and your liver. So when your T3 levels are low, you're going to see higher SHBG function. So the slower and worse your thyroid is, the more SHBG you'll have. And the liver is actually where we produce SHBG. So if your liver is not optimized, if you're having fatty liver disease or any of these high liver enzyme problems, what you're going to find is you're actually going to start producing a lot more SHBG as a byproduct of that, which is going to ruin anything we do with with total testosterone, because if it doesn't free up, remember, it's worthless. It's not cash in your pocket to use. So some of the things that we can do to optimize SHBG, to get more free testosterone after we've adapted to have higher total testosterone, is we can throw in zinc and boron. I know zinc was already on the one side of the board. Zinc is just all around amazing for testosterone and free testosterone. But boron is a mineral that we can take that has an amazing ability to lower SHBG in the body. By taking zinc and boron, by avoiding too much alcohol and smoking, by making sure our organs are healthy, our inflammation levels are low, and by making sure we lift and eat the right amount, we can optimize SHBG and our total testosterone, so we can not only have a massive amount of testosterone in our system, but we can be utilizing as much as possible. And that's going to make you actually feel the benefits of everything you're working for. And worth noting there, like I said, you can even have low total testosterone and have great free testosterone and feel amazing and have all the benefits of good testosterone. Free testosterone, in my opinion, and what I've seen in clients, is always the number one factor to pay attention to. And let's talk about these real world solutions that solve all of these. So I said, I know we went over these, but let's hit them one more time. Like I said, sleep 7 to 9 hours. There's just nothing you can do that'll increase total testosterone more than sleeping more. Because this is just when the machine is running. This is when you're producing the most testosterone. So make sure you stay in that state as long as possible. Secondarily is to make sure we're eating at least 1.8 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass a day, and making sure we're eating at least 70 grams of fat a day. And these two things are going to set us up for two things. It's going to help us increase total muscle mass, so we have more androgen receptor density. It's going to help us make sure we have the cholesterol and fat we need to optimize hormone production in the first place. And if you're eating this much protein and you're eating this much fat, you're probably going to be in some sort of a low glycemic diet, which we have on the board, which is going to significantly impact the amount of inflammation and stress and cortisol in your body, which also impacts both free and total testosterone. We can make sure we lift weights 3 to 4 times a week. Once again, this is going to help us build up that androgen receptor density, but it is also going to help us free up more testosterone and have more testosterone day to day. We can make sure we put vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, and boron in our life. Dosing for these, I'd say about 5,000 IUs of vitamin D. I'd say about 30 milligrams of zinc. I'd say about 350 to 400 milligrams of magnesium, and anywhere from 3 to 10 milligrams of boron is more than enough. We can limit our alcohol and smoking. These are obvious things. But if we limit our alcohol and smoking, we will lower inflammation. We will also lower cortisol. We will significantly lower SHBG. These are two really defining factors in increasing people's SHBG day to day. We can make sure we de-stress. So meditation, taking a moment for ourselves, making sure we're not allowing ourselves to stay in a stressful life or stressful environment too often. But if you can't do that, taking something like ashwagandha can lower cortisol and can have a significant impact on testosterone. Not because it itself affects testosterone, but the mechanisms that it solves in our body will make it so we can increase testosterone production significantly. The last two things we can really do, which I do want to hit on hard because these are important. We can avoid undereating. When people go into diets, we see them go into these starvation phases. We see people not utilizing a professional. And what they end up doing is they undereat significantly. And a lot of times they undereat fat and cholesterol because those are the easiest things for them to pull out to get calories low. If you are undereating, do not expect to have good testosterone. Do not expect to have good free testosterone. And if you do not have good testosterone or free testosterone, even if you're a female, do not expect to get good results in your fat loss or muscle building process. It's just as simple as that. And lastly is a low glycemic diet. If you want to be your healthiest self, which you can notice that almost everything on this board to get optimal free testosterone is just stuff that's going to make you healthier. Be leaner, work out, sleep better, eat better, and make sure that you're eating a low glycemic diet. It's going to be healthier for you. It's going to make you feel more satiated. But more importantly than all that, it's also just going to set yourself up for the lowest inflammation level you could have in a normal everyday diet. So hit all of these, and what you'll find is not only will your total testosterone increase, hopefully somewhere between 500 and 700, maybe even a little higher if you're lucky, but also we can inch up that free testosterone where you're actually going to feel a lot of the effects of your testosterone in your body day to day, and you're really going to enjoy your life that much better.